Ah, self-help books, the literary equivalent of a microwave dinner. Quick, easy, and leaves you wondering why you didn't just cook something from scratch instead. Now, imagine a world where every complex problem has a quick fix solution neatly packaged into a 200-page book. Sounds too good to be true? Well, that's because it probably is. Yet the self-help genre continues to thrive, with countless jubilant faces lit up with the promise of instant wisdom. Today we're going to jump into sea of joy that this genre brings, focusing on the book that claims to have all the answers to your financial woes, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This gem of a book, penned by the ever-so-wise Robert Kiyosaki, has won the hearts of many, promising to unlock the secrets of wealth and prosperity. Oh, the wonderful irony. People bursting with happiness, seeking quick solutions to deep-seated, multifaceted problems. So let's dive into this treasure trove wisdom, shall we? Strap in. It's going to be an exhilarating ride filled with smiling faces and beaming hopes. Scene script. Chapter 1, where we meet the mythical Rich Dad. Spoiler alert, he's as real as the Tooth Fairy. Ah, the first chapter. The grand stage where our author, Robert Kiyosaki, sets the tone with an audacious claim. Two dads, folks, one rich, one poor. You'd think he was setting up a sitcom, but alas, it's just the premise of a self-help book that has somehow managed to bewitch millions. Now, this Rich Dad character is quite a figure. He's the embodiment of financial success and the beacon of wisdom that our author claims to have been guided by. Apparently, Kiyosaki was lucky enough to have a second father who was a real estate tycoon, and not just any tycoon, mind you, but one who had the time and patience to impart his wealth of knowledge to a young boy. Sounds like a fairy tale? Well, that's because it probably is. And then we have the poor dad, the biological father, an educated man who, despite his degrees, apparently couldn't figure out the path to financial freedom. It's a classic tale of brains versus brawn, or in this case, education versus street smarts. The author uses this dichotomy to push the idea that traditional education isn't the key to wealth, but rather financial education is. Groundbreaking stuff, right? But here's the kicker. The author never truly verifies the existence of this rich dad. He remains a mythical figure throughout, a convenient tool to validate the author's points. It's like saying, my invisible friend agrees with me, so I must be right. It's all a bit too convenient and cliché, don't you think? So, what's the moral of the first chapter? Well, it's quite simple. If you want to be rich, just find yourself a rich dad. It's as easy as finding a needle in a haystack while blindfolded. And if you can't manage that, well, you're just not trying hard enough. So our first lesson here is, if you want to be rich, just find yourself a rich dad. Simple, right? Scene script. Chapter 2, where we learn that money is not real, it's just an idea. Well, try telling that to my landlord. Ah, the delightful chapter where Kiyosaki explains money. He wants us to believe that money, in all its shiny, crinkly glory, is nothing but a figment of our collective imagination. Fascinating, isn't it? If that's the case, let's all close our eyes. Imagine $1 million, and when we open them, we'll be rich. Oh, wait, I tried that, and I'm still here, not sipping a cocktail on a private island. Kiyosaki seems to have missed the memo that money, while indeed a social construct, holds real power in our world. It's the key to food, shelter, healthcare, and those fancy shoes you've been eyeing. But according to our dear author, it's all just an idea. An oversimplification, perhaps? A dangerous generalization? Absolutely. You see, Kiyosaki's concept of money is rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of economics. Money isn't just an idea, it's a tool. A tool that can build hospitals, schools, and yes, even buy that ridiculously overpriced cup of coffee. And let's not forget about the financial concepts he tries to explain. Things like assets and liabilities, cash flow, and investment opportunities. All wrapped up in a neat little package with a bow on top. But when you unwrap it, you find that these concepts aren't so simple after all. They're complex, intricate, and require a solid understanding to navigate effectively. It's a bit like saying, just put the pedal to the metal and you'll win the race. Sure, you might go fast, but without understanding how to steer, you're likely to crash and burn. So, while Kiyosaki's view of money may seem revolutionary, it's really just an overcooked stew of oversimplification and generalization. It might taste good at first, but it's likely to give you indigestion later. And there you have it. Money is not real, just an idea. I'm sure the bank will understand when I tell them my mortgage payment is just a figment of their imagination. As we delve further into the book, it's like going deeper into a rabbit hole of financial nonsense. Let's begin with Chapter 3, Mind Your Own Business. Here, Kiyosaki suggests that your real wealth lies in your time and freedom. But wait, isn't that the same guy who just told us to work our socks off to get rich? I guess consistency isn't his strong suit. Next, we have Chapter 4, The History of Taxes and Power of Corporations. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up because our dear author is about to turn historian. He enlightens us with a groundbreaking revelation that taxes were invented to make the rich richer. And here I was, thinking they were for public infrastructure and welfare. Silly me. Moving on to Chapter 5. The rich invent money. Apparently the rich are not just wealth accumulators, but they're also alchemists, magically creating money out of thin air. If you're wondering how exactly, don't worry. Kiyosaki doesn't bother to explain that either. Chapter 6. Work to learn, don't work for money, is a gem. It's like Kiyosaki is saying, don't work for money, but hey, remember to get rich. If you're confused, join the club. We've got jackets. Chapter 7. Overcoming obstacles. Here, Kiyosaki talks about fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. He could have just titled this chapter, The Author's Autobiography. It would have been far more fitting. Chapter 8. Getting Started. This chapter is basically the author patting himself on the back for a good 30 pages. If you're looking for actual tips on getting started, you might have better luck finding a unicorn. Chapter 9. Still want more? Here are some to-dos. This is where Kiyosaki gives you a list of vague tasks, none of which have anything to do with practical wealth building. It's like he's playing a game of financial pin the tail on the donkey. Last but not least, Chapter 10, Final Thoughts. Oh, the irony. After a roller coaster of absurdities, we finally reach the end, only to realize there is no end. Kiyosaki leaves us with more questions than answers, like a bad season finale of a sitcom. In the magical world of rich dad, poor dad, common sense is an endangered species. The book is a labyrinth of contradictions, where the exit sign points towards a mirage of wealth, but leads you to a desert of confusion. The only consistent thing in this book is its inconsistency. One moment, Kiyosaki is preaching about the importance of financial education. The next, he's telling us to throw caution to the wind and take risks without a safety net. It's like a tour guide who doesn't know the way but keeps insisting he does. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the magical world of rich dad, poor dad, where common sense goes to die. So, what have we learned from this literary masterpiece? Well, let's recap. It seems the key to financial success is inventing a rich dad from thin air. A dad so rich he makes Scrooge McDuck look like a penniless pigeon. Next, you toss basic financial principles out the window, because who needs those when you have a billionaire imaginary friend? You'll also want to remember that money is just an illusion. Yes, that's right, folks. Those green bills in your wallet, pure fantasy. Your bank account, a mirage. Debts, well, those are very real, but let's not get into that. And don't forget the secret weapon, cliches. Nothing screams financial guru quite like a good, old-fashioned cliche. In conclusion, Rich Dad, Poor Dad teaches us that if you want to get rich, just make up a rich dad, ignore basic financial principles, and remember, money isn't real. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go burn my economics degree.